to my kitchen in North Carolina. All right, so first we need some starch. I'm going to be using some green bananas that I have frozen. So when you buy the green bananas from your regular supermarket, if you're not going to use it immediately, freeze it. Just score the sides. I'm also going to be using some plantain. You guys know I love plantain, but I'm going to make it healthy by boiling it. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover the bananas with some water, just cold water, before putting it on to boil. So you just need enough water to cover the top of the bananas. And again, ideally, if you have fresh green bananas, use that or save them in your freezer until you're ready for them. So the smoked herring stew is often eaten for breakfast or lunch, and grandfather, my Jamaican grandfather, used to eat it with like boiled dumplings or boiled yam in addition to the banana, and it's just amazing. So these are the vegetables you're gonna need for the stew. I have an onion. I actually have 2 because the other half was already cut in the fridge. I have 3 tomatoes. You can use 4 tomatoes if you like, a clove of garlic, and you can also add some scallions. I also have some bell pepper. So I have a half of a red bell pepper, but you can use a whole bell pepper, red or yellow, whatever bell pepper you have. I also needed some, hot pepper. So this is like Scotch bonnet. Jamaicans use Scotch bonnet, but this is also African pepper. This red one here was very, very hot. I like to keep some in the freezer. And the star of our show, the smoked herring. So this is smoked fish, which is very salty and preserved with salt. So you can get it at most ethnic supermarkets, but I'm sure you can also get it at Western stores. All right, so as you can see, it's very hard, kind of rubbery, leathery like texture. So we're gonna need to soak it in some water and boil it. So I'm just gonna add enough water to cover the top of the fish. So have you ever tried smoked herring? Do you like it, not like it? I absolutely love this Jamaican paste called Solomon Gundy, which is also used on top of like crackers. Tastes so good, very spicy, a little bit salty. Anyway, this reminds me of that. Okay, so we got our pot of herring on the fire. We're gonna need to boil that. While we're boiling that, let's go outside and get some scallions. I have some fresh scallions growing. So I was really fascinated with these bulbs at the end of the scallion. They look like flowers about to form, right? I'm gonna leave them alone and pick the ones that don't have those bulbs on them. So many of you know that I'm an American whose father is African and my mother is Jamaican. But let me tell you a little bit about my grandfather, Jacob Robotham, and his wife, Caristine Robotham. They were from Jamaica and they moved to England for many years. They lived in England before moving to the United States. So they were a really strong influence and pretty much how I learned to cook Jamaican food. We used to come to America. That's me with the red ribbon in my hair. We used to come to America when I was little. And when we moved to the United States, my grandfather was pretty much like my father figure. So this is Grandpa and I was about 16, 17. And this is us with Kenton at graduation. And this is on my wedding day with Grandpa. This here is in Florida with my younger brother and cousin. And this is my grandpa and grandma. So I learned a lot about culture and food from them. And I honestly really miss them to this day. All right, let's get back into the kitchen and wash off these scallions. Gotta really, really wash them well. But I find them so pretty. Look how long they are. Just look how long they are compared to the supermarket scallions. And look at the intensity of the color. Beautiful. So after boiling the salted smoked herring for about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm draining off the water. And this process we're going to repeat about 3 to 4 times, or as many times as it takes to make the fish soft and to get rid of majority of the salt. So I drained off the water, and then I'm adding more water to it, and then I'll put it back on the stove to boil some more. Just checking on the bananas, and they look like they're done. You can see they look very soft, and they are just a touch bit overdone, partially because the bananas were not as green as I wanted them, but that's okay. All right, let's get ready to chop our vegetables. We're gonna go ahead and chop our scallions. So my grandparents passed away in 2014 and 15, basically a year apart from each other. And yeah, it was a lot, but now it's easier to talk about them. And whenever I think of herring, stewed herring, I always think of my grandfather, because I remember sitting at the countertop and he had cooked salt fish, and he also cooked the red herring stew. And I remember saying, you know, "Grandpa, can I have some more?" And he would say, "Yes, darling. Yes, darling, go ahead." So whenever I think of this dish, it just brings back all these happy, nostalgic feelings. And he was a great cook. Grandma was one of those women that was always out a street, as they would say. She could never stay home. She loved to travel. She was very colorful, outgoing, had a lot of friends. And in fact, when we first moved to the US, Grandma had just come back from Hawaii. So Grandpa did most of the cooking. She could cook, but he did a lot of the cooking. So as I've told you before, I learned to cook at a pretty young age, you know, watching my parents. I remember cooking with my father in Africa before moving to the United States, and definitely my grandfather and grandmother also helped to hone in on that skill. So you see, this is how I like to, I guess, crush my garlic and take off the skin. It comes off easily in the mortar. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and remove those small pieces of skin, and we are almost done. We've got our vegetables ready, we've got our garlic ready. So don't forget your spice. We have some adobo, not plain salt. I'm choosing to use adobo because we need some flavor, but we're not trying to add a whole bunch of salt, considering we just tried to remove all the salt from the herring. So this is adobo. This is fish seasoning. You know, there's the Jamaican fish seasoning. This is thyme, pimento, some paprika, and some black pepper. All right, we're gonna keep draining this water, boiling, draining, boiling, draining, because you wanna get rid of as much of the salt as possible, and you want the fish to get tender. Okay. See, it's still a little bit rubbery even after 2-3 washes. A little bit rubbery, but it's so pretty. It almost looks like eel. If you guys know eel from sushi, that's what it looks like to me. And the flavor and the smell is so intense, but in a good way. So yeah, I see it's not falling apart. It's still holding its shape. I think I still want to boil it some more. You're gonna need about 1/4 cup of ketchup also. Some people also like to add a little bit of vinegar, but I don't, because I know that the ketchup has that tangy flavor that I really like. Okay, our herring is done, and I'm just gonna pull it apart a little bit. Not too much, I just don't want the pieces too big. Now sometimes, depending on the herring, you might have a lot of bones, and you won't be able to get rid of all the bones, but you can certainly try. Okay, I think this is how I want it. Not too fine, still coarse enough. So I'm gonna use this wide pad. It doesn't have to be like this. It could be a frying pan, or it could be a slightly deeper pot, but I kind of like this one because it's shallow enough but also deep enough. Get your pan hot, and then we're gonna add some oil. You can use coconut oil if you really want to be healthy, or even olive oil, or you can use some regular vegetable oil. The first ingredient I add to the oil is the garlic to give it a nice seasoning and also to toast the garlic before I add the rest of the vegetables. So mix it nicely and you're going to get that aroma. Okay, now I'm adding the herring. And I wish you could be in this kitchen with me. It smells so good. It smells so good. Some people don't stew the herring. Some people just add, you know, the oil and the vegetables and keep it dry. But I like it stewed as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of my vegetables, the onions, and the tomatoes. I'm also adding my hot pepper. As you can see, I didn't chop the pepper because not everybody likes a lot of pepper. But if you like a lot of pepper, then go ahead and cut open the pepper if you want. Or you could like cut it open and take out the seeds. But I just, you know, prefer to just float the pepper. Here comes our spice. So what I like about Jamaican food is there's a ton of flavor, kind of like African food. We don't do bland food at all. Our food has a lot of flavor. Gonna mix it really well. Let all those spices get in with the vegetables and the herring. Okay, now I'm adding the 1/4 cup of ketchup, and it gives it like a nice tangy and also sweet flavor. I absolutely love herring with that little bit of sweetness. Oh, also you noted that I added about 1/2 cup of water. So I'm just gonna let this simmer for about 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes, you know, depending on how much you have. Okay, looks like we're done. The last ingredient is the scallions, and as you know, scallions can be eaten raw. So technically, I mean, all the vegetables can be eaten raw, but you really don't need to stew it too long. So once you are done, then go ahead and add the scallions and pretty much turn off the fire after that. Just look at that luscious stew. Look at all those ingredients. Look at all those colors, texture. We've got the onions, the peppers, the tomatoes, the herring. All right, don't forget to take out your pepper because you don't want it to burst in your stew if you don't like that much pepper. Okay, our plate is ready with our banana and our plantain. And we're just gonna go ahead and scoop up all that luscious stew onto our plates. I really wish I could reach over and just hand you the plate through the screen, right? If I could just hand it to you. But you know, you can make it too because it's easy. So all that's missing now is a few slices of avocado, or as Grandpa and many Jamaicans call it, pear. You just need a piece of pear or slice of pear with this. So I hope you really enjoyed this video, this recipe. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, if you enjoy a lot of family, food, home and garden videos. And yes, go ahead and follow me on Instagram too, for those of you that have an Instagram account. We will see you soon. Bye!